I'm Jenni Carlson here with Kyle Fredrickson. We're in Ames, Iowa, where Oklahoma State has defeated Iowa State 35-31. And Kyle, this was as entertaining a game as they come. Although Oklahoma State just plays these type of games, a fifth come-from-behind victory for this team this year. How did they do it this time?
They did it by being resilient. I mean, how did they do it? I think we're still digesting it. Second time this season, OSU was down 17 points. They find a way to rally back. Incredible second half adjustments once again by Glenn Spencer after some head-scratching defense early on. You know, early on in the first quarter, Iowa State had 6 plays of 20 or more yards. They run out to that big lead, and all of a sudden you're thinking, here we go, 2011 in Ames. I mean, we've seen this happen before. But sure enough, the Cowboys were able to make enough big plays in the second half, really led by their third down offense. They go 11 of 17 today. They convert one of those for a fourth down. Another one of those failed conversions was late to run out the clock. So incredibly efficient, really gutsy performances, really when the Cowboys needed it most. But Jenni, as you're writing, I mean, it was a defensive performance in the second half that really sealed this one.
Yeah, you know, and you mentioned the struggles early on defense, and there were many. 4 possessions Iowa State scored on to start the game, but then they only scored 1 touchdown the rest of the night, and a lot of adjustments by Glenn Spencer and his guys, but they kept getting after it, and then they were able to really turn the corner and win the game. And I think that was the difference between this team and the 2011 team. They had a really good defense in 11, but this is a defense that can win games, and tonight they really helped these Cowboys get over the hump. But you mentioned those third down conversions, and they came in so many different ways, Kyle. That was the thing. You saw some from Mason Rudolph, some involving Marcel Aitman, who had been almost absent for a while. Even Chris Carlson gets a big third down. I mean, just the variety of plays on third down was pretty impressive.
Absolutely. You know, the Cowboys are lucky to have those weapons. They've talked about it all year. But you mentioned Carlson. This might have been his best game in an OSU uniform. Only 70 yards on the ground, but with a 5.8 yards per average carry. He was huge. You talk about the third down conversion. You know, the Big 12 newcomer of the year coming into this year, we thought he was going to have a bigger role, but it just hasn't really planned out that way with the offensive line troubles. But tonight plays a really big factor, and they're going to need a whole lot more of him moving forward as the Cowboys welcome Baylor and then OU to cap off the season.
Definitely so. Big games remain for this team, and Mike Gundy was asked if he wanted to make any sort of statement to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, and he said, you know what? 2 big games remain. He's focused, obviously, just on Baylor to start with, so no politicking at this point, because he really feels like if the Cowboys win out, they're going to be in that conversation and get that spot. They're not going to be playing a bunch of rum-dum teams down the stretch. I think he brings up a great point. Although the way this game was breaking down, you had to worry maybe he was going to have to do some politicking. But clearly his team comes out with a great victory to win here on the road. Do you feel like it really exercised some of those demons from 2011? I mean, Mike Gundy talked about the fact he thought about that year on the sideline tonight.
Yeah, I appreciated Mike Gundy's honesty afterwards when asked about the 2011 game. It would have been easy for him just to come out with the coach speak and say, we are not worried about it. But he was, you know, and he admitted that the players, for them, it wasn't a big deal. For the coaching staff who was here, him and Casey Dunn and some of these guys who have been here a while, that's a game that they're always going to remember. And Gundy said as much. They've had a bunch of program-changing wins over the past few years, but it's those losses that hurt the most. And I thought that was interesting hearing him say that. And tonight, you know, maybe Mike Gundy can sleep a little easier knowing they lost that 2011 game, especially if this win, you know, just turns out to be one of many in this season that could end up being pretty special if the Cowboys are able to run the table.
Glenn Spencer did tell me he's got a growing disdain for Ames. So I think they're ready to go home and be done with Ames, Iowa for another couple years. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.